Oh, okay. So where are we at now? Where are we at? I think it's still February. Is it February 28th today? It is, I think it's February 28th, Saturday night. So we're doing this down here in my basement again because I've been out all day doing stuff. And so I'm trying to do these vlogs like every day. The way I think of these vlogs is, you know how, adventurers used to have their journals and then they would write in their journals every day about the things that were happening and then people found that interesting. That's kind of how I think of these vlogs, is like a modern version of those old adventurers' journals. That at least my thought is. So as far as getting prepared for the trip goes, everything is trucking along pretty well today. Went out with my wife and we got her some traveling clothes. Because again, one thing to be thinking about when you go out there into something like an RV or a long-term trip is a lot of the clothes you may have simply don't function out there, adventuring. Things like you don't want clothes that are like cotton or really like clothy, like organic fibers, because they pick up dirt and they pick up crap really well. So you want clothes that basically you never have to clean, the type of thing where you can just put it on and it's basically good enough all the time. So you go for like those nice synthetic fibers. The other thing that I did, I went out today and I bought this nice, I hope I'm in focus here. I bought this nice 4K camera for the adventure. So I was playing around with different cameras and trying to figure out what kind of camera I wanted to use for going out and doing all the videotaping for Failed Normal here. And I finally, I decided it was time to go all the way to 4K. 4K is the future. And I can afford a 4K camera. So if we know 4K is going to be the future, I decided just to buy 4K now. And I like it. I really do like it. So I tried yesterday's little vlog using a GoPro that did 4K. And I liked a lot of the image quality of it. But the thing was, everything was kind of warped. So with those... with a GoPros, you have 3 settings in there for how the video will be taken. It's like there's wide, medium, and narrow. And so wide is basically a fisheye lens, narrow is a normal lens, and medium is somewhere in the middle. Well, the problem is when you start taping in 4K, it only tapes in wide, that fisheye lens. And I was looking at it and you could see like the trees were bent in the background and I was like, man, I don't like that. So I figured, I took that back today and went, you know what, let's just go with the full-fledged real 4K camera. I think that's going to be the best solution. And I've been playing around with this today, and I do have to say 4K is effing beautiful. Can you imagine, like, you can see the quality of the video of me just being in my basement. Can you imagine when I'm like out in the Tetons or Yellowstone or, Glacier or any of those major national parks using this camera? That will be absolutely awesome. So we got the camera today, so that's probably one of the last big purchases for this trip before we go. Tanto seems to be doing really well. We came home tonight, and I have to say, he was bouncier when we came home than we have seen him in a couple of months. Like he ran up to us, his little tail was wagging, he was like jumping up and down. And honestly, it's been a long time since we've seen that, like, period. Not like since the surgery, but like period. So maybe with that little maybe with that little tumor out of his head now, and he was off whatever horrible medicine they gave him, he seems to be doing good. And so we gave him food. So we gave him a lot of wet food. We gave him a normal portion of dry food this morning with like half a can of wet food on top, and then I gave him almost a full can of wet food with another portion of dry food, and he's like devouring it. So Tanto is proof. Tanto is absolute 100% proof that you or I have no idea what the hell is going on. If you ever need proof that we are not in control, we don't even know what the hell's going on, Tanto is upstairs, because I swear, One minute we think he's going to be with us for years. The next minute we think we've got him for months. The next minute we think he's going to die the next day. The next minute, hey, look, he's doing pretty good. I guess we'll have him till we have him, right? So yeah, so we got that. Past that, I think we're trying to figure out exactly how the trip will go now, because we're down to about the 2 week mark. So tomorrow will be the 1st of March, and we leave the 15th of March. So we've only got about 2 weeks left, and everything is pretty much set up. So we're starting to do the initial plans of where we're going to go. So what we're thinking right now is the first stop on the adventure will be Colonial Williamsburg. I don't know why my wife absolutely adores Colonial Williamsburg. I mean, like, truly adores Colonial Williamsburg. And so that's about 3.5 hours away. So that's a nice trip, first little jaunt with the RV. So we'll go down to Colonial Williamsburg for about 3.5 hours away. So we'll probably spend like 2 or 3 days there, I figure, kind of working out the kinks with the RV. If there are any major problems, we'll only be 3 hours away. And then from there, I think we're going to go down to Charleston, South Carolina. That's about 6.5 hours away. A little further than I would like to go on our second little jaunt. On the other hand, the problem is in this season, I'm not really sure like a good in-between place to stop. Like normally, if it was like really spring or really summer, there's all kinds of amazing places to stop between Colonial Williamsburg and Charleston, but it's not spring and summer. It's still winter. Like, we're going to be leaving in March. So the end of March, basically the weather we're looking at is like the 50s. And I'm just not a fan of the 50s by the ocean. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you give me like 70, 80 degrees by the ocean, that's awesome. Sitting in an RV park by the ocean in like 50 degree or less weather, it's a little cold for me, right? So we plan to go down to Charleston, South Carolina, because it should be up there more around the 60 degree range. Plus my wife has friends down there. And then from Charleston, South Carolina, then we'll start going over the next big target, I think, is New Orleans. But I'm sure we'll go from Charleston, South Carolina, and stop a few places on the way to get to New Orleans and just truck along that way. My only main concern right now, my only like real, like I say, there's quibbles and all that kind of stuff, and then there's real concerns, things you're really concerned about. And I think my only real concern about the trip right now is that we are leaving so early in the season, and this has just been a really cold winter, like all the way around. Like I was looking like all the way down into Florida, it's colder than normal. So the temperature I am a little bit concerned about. Once we get far enough south, once it's up in the 50s, it's not balmy. You're not going to get a tan in the 50s, but at least it'll be, survivable. But, it is a little colder than you're thinking, trucking along with an RV. But, we got a nice little propane heater inside. That's a nice thing. When you buy these new RVs, everybody was talking about like, well, make sure you have a heater, or make sure you have this. And it's like, we get these new RVs, they're nice. They have a built-in air conditioner, built-in propane heater. We may take another little small electric heater just in case. But, they've actually got insulation in them. Not a lot of insulation. It's like 1.5 inches of basically styrofoam. But, they're pretty well built for being in reasonable conditions. But yeah, that's my only concern, like figuring out where we're gonna go, because it's still so early in the season, and so many of these really cool places are still just really balls cold. I mean, it'll be a long time till we get to Yellowstone or anything. But a lot of those places, I mean, you think about them like being deserts or whatever, and they're cold. Like I remember that, the first time I traveled cross country, right? So I threw everything in the car, went, I'm gonna find my fortune in California. That didn't work out so well, but anyways, that's another story. That's a story for another time. But part of the story was, when I left, right? So I left in January that time. So I was going to go out to California, and I decided to go out in January. And so I was looking at the map, and I looked at the map, and I said, well, being that it's January, I should probably take the southern route. So if you're looking at going cross country, there's 70 that kind of goes in the middle. What is it? There's something else that goes higher north, and then there's 40 that goes south. So basically my idea was, okay, I'll go south until I hit 40 and take 40 all the way across, because that seems real low. That'll take me through like Arizona, New Mexico, and those places are like deserty, right? Yeah, one of the great stories from my adventure. So I'm driving across, and it is just balls cold the entire damn way, right? And to the point, like one of the, because I was sleeping in my car then. I was doing this was truly an inexpensive trip. This is truly throw your crap in the car, sleep in your car on the way out there, whole 9 yards. Not a hotel room, not even a tent, right? And so one of the nights, one of the mornings, I wake up and I pop my driver's side seat up to go look out the window, and then the window, it's all like ripply from ice. And I'm like, oh wow, it must be cold outside. I need to scrape my window before I start driving. So I grab my scraper, I get out of the car, I go to scrape the outside of the windshield, and there's nothing on it. It's actually perfectly clean on the outside. And I'm like, what the hell? And so I take the scraper and I scrape the inside of the windshield. And what it was so cold that my breath condensed on the windshield. So my thought had been go down on 40 and it'll be warm and balmy. It'll be nice, right? So I'm driving along and finally I get to like New Mexico and I stop at the visitor center and we're talking, and I asked the lady, I'm like, I don't really understand something here. She's like, what's that? It's like, well, the reason I came down on 40 is that it's so far south, I figured it would be pretty warm. And she looked at me and she laughed and she said, well, a blizzard came through last week. And I was like, what? And she said, yes, you may be south, but the elevation is so high that it's still very cold. And you're like, oh, now I understand. So that's the issue with a lot of these really cool places. You go to like, I'm not quite sure about Grand Canyon, but you go to Yellowstone or you go to Crater Lake or you go to a lot of these places, they are just so cold because the elevation is so high. You may not think about that. So that's where we'll be a little curious in this whole, was it March, April? So March to April time frame, I'll be curious to see how this part of the trip goes, simply because of the whole weather thing. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, weather changes where you want to go. But otherwise it's trucking along. The one thing that I did want to talk to you guys tonight about, though, is the whole idea of making sure you buy good quality equipment and buy the right good quality equipment. And this is an important lesson that I have learned over the years, because I could be a cheapskate back in the old days. As I just said, I drove all the way across country and slept in my car, and I did that kind of thing quite a bit. And one of the things that I found is I used to be a lot cheaper than I am now. Like, people hear me talk about money now and spending money on this and spending money on that, and they're like, oh, look at you. And it's like, yeah, well, the reason I spend money on things now is because I used to not spend money on things, right? I would go to these amazing places, and then I would be a cheapskate once I was there. And it's so horrible. Like, I look back on some of the stuff now and I just want to go home and smack myself, because I would go to some of these just amazing places, but then once I got there, I wouldn't want to spend any money. And so it's like going to an amazing place, but then not really getting a whole hell of a lot out of it because you don't want to spend any money because you're trying to be cheap. And I see a lot of people that run into this type of thing. And so that's one of the things I want you guys to be thinking about. Like, if you go out and you do adventure and you do travel, is, are you spending money on the things that are going to be valuable to you? Now, if it's not going to be valuable to you, don't spend money on it. But there's a lot of things out there where it really will make the whole experience a lot better. It'll really make the whole experience, something truly memorable forever. And yet people won't do that because they're going to try to be cheap. So, like with me and my wife, going out on this RV trip, there's a lot of things I'm not spending money on. I'm not spending money on jeans or shirts. I'm basically taking my normal shirts, a lot of my normal clothes. I'm not buying any new boots or anything like that. But I am doing things like buying this nice camera. So, that was one of the lessons I learned way back when. Is, I did all that traveling through Europe, and I did all the traveling through India, and coming out of it, I have very few pictures of all these amazing places that I went and all these amazing things that I did, because I didn't want to spend the money on a camera, and I didn't want to spend the money on photo development. So yes, that was back in the day when you had to actually spend money to develop pictures. Like, I was just a cheapskate. It's like, why should I spend $3 or $4 developing a roll of film? I'll remember it. I will remember this forever. And now it's how many years later, and it's like, what did that place look like again, right? And I think about that, and I regret that I didn't spend money on some of these things. That I didn't stay longer, or I didn't like. There was one place I remember I went to, and they were well known for their was it ribs? It was like one of these world class rib joints, like known around the world for ribs. And then when I got there, the ribs cost like $20 a rack, and so I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on ribs. And so then I got like beef tips instead. And then I'm sitting there eating these little $12 beef tips, going, these beef tips really suck. And so I talked to the waitress, and I was like, yeah, these beef tips really aren't that good. And she kind of looked at me and said, yeah, everybody normally just orders ribs. And I was like, but they were $8 more. And I look back at that, I'm like, oh my golly, I was at a world-class rib joint, and I ordered beef tips. What the hell was wrong with, like, seriously, like, what the hell was wrong with me? But I look back at that, I see so many of those things, and I see a lot of other people do that, the whole thing, like, I'm gonna go and do this amazing, whatever, but then I am going to I'm going to try to save money on all of these really weird things. I see that a lot with hotels. My wife and I get into arguments about hotels a lot, when we used to stay in hotels before we had a trailer. And that was the thing, like, we get in these arguments about, because, when I go to hotels, we spend a lot of money on hotels, but we get the hotel, like, right in the middle of the area. So if we're gonna go to some place, we get a nice hotel in the middle of the area. And, like, I see so many people, and they're like, oh, you spend too much money on hotels. You should get a hotel, like, 5 miles this way. And then you're like, well, yeah, but you're gonna save money on the hotel. But then every day you're gonna get up, and instead of being like in the center of everything, which is really cool, instead of being able to wake up in the morning and walk out of your hotel and go to a nice cafe and be able to get a nice breakfast all within a very reasonable walking distance, you're gonna come out of your motel, have to get in your car, drive somewhere. It's like, it's a whole different experience. Isn't it, if you're gonna go and spend all the time and energy to do something, isn't it worth just those few extra bucks to make it more enjoyable? And again, it's once you've already spent the money on these things. Like I say, like that's why I bought this 4K camera. It's because I thought about it, and like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do all these amazing things, and I'm going to take videos of all these amazing things. And I have 1080p cameras right now. But we already know that 1080p is the past. For you guys, doing 1080p video is fine, but I'm Eli, the computer guy. I'm trying to do a content business, creating these really cool videos. And so if I already know 1080p is the past, and I can purchase a 4K camera now, I'm never going to be able to re-film video. Like, once we have done Colonial Williamsburg, we won't go back to refilm it. Once we've done Charleston, South Carolina, so if it's filmed in 1080p, it will forever be 1080p. Whereas if I simply go out and buy this 4K camera now, then everywhere we go on this adventure, it will all be taped in 4K. And you think about it, and you're like, yeah, Eli, but the cost of this 4K camera is, so this one cost me about $1,100 today. And it's like, well, yes, which I would have preferred not to spend, to be honest with you. But if you look at the total cost of everything else, we just spent $12,000 on an RV trailer. Plus we have to buy all this stuff to stock out the RV trailer. Plus we've got to spend gas. Plus we've got to spend, for the RV campgrounds or whatever. Like, we're already going to be spending a really large amount of money. So in the scheme of things, where does that $1,100 really come in, right? And that's one of those things you have to think about, like, because so many people, well, we're going to go to Disney World, and it's like, we can either spend $7,000 and we're going to be in the middle of everything, or we can spend $5,000 and, well, we'll have to take the shuttle bus to get there. And especially if you have the money, it's like one of those things to be thinking about, is you're already spending that money. You know what? Just like that extra amount can make things all the more interesting. All the better for you. That's the thing, thinking about that. And that's what I see a lot of people do. There's a mentality nowadays, this whole mentality of like saving money. Like, and I don't I know I come across like it sometimes, like I don't believe in saving money, but I do believe in saving money. But it's become like this fetish, you know, this fetish idea of not that, hey, we went to Yellowstone National Park and we had amazing time. It's turned into, we went to Yellowstone National Park and it only cost us $1,500. Like instead of actually going out and doing amazing, life-affirming, changing things, it's turned into, how can we do this for a bargain price? And it's like, you know, I think I might just want to work an extra week and not worry so much about the bargain price, but actually make sure I really have a good little adventure out there. So that's one of those things to be thinking about, like whenever you're going to go out there, is where can you save money that it doesn't really matter, and where do you need to spend money that it will? So like I say, with us, you know, I could go out there and I could buy new North Face everything, and we could buy all this new stuff. But it's like there's no reason to spend that extra money, especially since we're staying in an RV. You know, we're just going to take our normal clothes for the most part. You know, this shirt that I have on, this is like a 5 or 6 year old shirt. You know, my boots are 3 years old, you know, jeans are however old. So we're going to take all this because there's no reason to go and spend money on those particular things. But on some of these other items, it does actually make sense, and it will make the whole experience a lot better, especially remembering this experience and videotaping the experience, so on and so forth. So there you go. That's just our little random thought for today. Can't really tell how long I've been talking. It says record. Oh, that's kind of weird. It doesn't tell me how long I've been talking. Like all of these other cameras will tell me I've been talking for like 19 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. And when I'm looking at this, it gives me a lot of information. None of it is how long it's been videotaping for. So either we will start getting much shorter videos, which probably won't happen, or we will start getting much longer videos, which probably will. But I'm liking this because so I've set up my new little 4K camera on this tripod, and I have this. So this is one of the things I did buy is we bought these nice fold up chairs, and I do have to say these fold up chairs are absolutely awesome. If you have $30 extra, buy these fold up chairs. And of all places, I actually bought these at Walmart, and I bought my first set of these like years ago, like 10 years ago at Walmart. And I have to say, I don't buy very much at Walmart. I truly don't. Like, I'm one of those people that dislikes Walmart. And since I dislike Walmart, I don't shop at Walmart very much. You know, it's so weird. Like, there's so many people out there, they're like, I hate Walmart. Walmart is the death of America. And then they go shop there every week. And I'm like, I don't get that. It's like, if you don't like Walmart, stop shopping at Walmart. So Walmart is not someplace I shop at very often at all. But the one thing that I will give them, one of the only things I will give them is these, they're Coleman fold-up chairs. They sell the best Coleman fold-up chairs. Because I was looking for other fold-up chairs from somewhere else. Because again, 10 years ago, I bought a set from there, and they were awesome. I didn't think anything about it because I was like, it's Walmart. They're probably crappy, but screw it. And I just bought them at the time, right? But we had them for years. They lasted years and years and years and years. And so I went out to look to buy the same type of thing again, and I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to Walmart. So I looked a lot of other places. I looked at places like REI, Bass Outfitters, a lot of these other outdoor stores. And I have to tell you, I don't know why this is. I have no idea why this is, but Walmart sells the best little Coleman fold-up chairs. Other places have these little fold-up chairs, but they all suck. They all suck. So I got this there. But I think this will be a kind of cool setup for like doing these vlogs. Like I can plop this chair down somewhere, and you can see you'll be able to see like mountains in the background, or lakes, or oceans, or something like that. I can just set this whole thing up, and I can be here, and then you can see all the whatever the hell's going on in the background. Something a lot more interesting than my basement. So that's where we're going there. And it's pretty late at night. I think my wife wants to drink some bedtime tea and curl up and watch some TV while we still have a TV to watch. So I should probably wander up now. So we're getting close. We are getting close. We're about 2 weeks. 2 weeks from the official leave date. Very excited. Very, very, very excited.